Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Figueroa. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Tiger 21, and thank you for joining us today for Inside the Expat Experience, Building Community and Gaining Global Perspectives. This webinar is part of a series designed to give you a real look into the real conversations happening in Tiger 21, an extraordinary community of more than 1,800 successful entrepreneurs and ultra high net worth individuals around the globe. Tiger 21 brings together an exceptional group of wealth creators to navigate the issues and opportunities that stem from success and learn from the collective intelligence of accomplished peers. Today, we brought together three extraordinary people that I'm happy to introduce. First is Jiska Pesch, chair of Singapore '02, to moderate a conversation between El-Hage, chair of Dubai '01, and Laurence Tham, chair of Portugal '01 and Global '08. And we're excited for this today. And if you have any questions for our panelists, we'll be having some time at the end. Please type them into the Q&A box, and we'll make sure that we get to them, as many as we can. We ask you please include your name and your location. You have a lot of people from around the globe today visiting with your question. And so we'll leave time at the end of that call to address all of those. We're excited to share this with you. And so, Jiska, without further ado, I'll turn it over to you to get started.
Thank you, Mark. Laurence and Mo, you're both expats in your respective countries. What is it like? Mo, let's start with you.
It's interesting to be called an expat. I've been in Dubai for more than 20 years. My wife and her family have been here since she was 2 years old. My three children born and grew up here. So really, this is home for us. But in many ways, of course, we're permanent expats, if you like. I think what I found is that the benefits of being an expat keeps you really very intentional about your life and the place that you've chosen to make home. For example, I moved to Dubai more than 20 years ago for improved quality of life, for better career and business opportunities, greater exposure for my to-be children. These goals really have not changed 20 years onwards, and I continue to keep them sort of front of mind and very intentional and proactive about how I live my life and maximize that opportunity that I've been given here in Dubai and to achieve these things. In many ways, we choose to be where we are almost on a daily basis as expats, meaning I continue to choose to be in Dubai. And that's the beauty of being an expat, is you really get to choose where you want to be and how to live your life and sort of maximize the opportunity that you're given. And where you choose is different in terms of the reasons you may choose. It's why, for example, people choose Dubai may be different than Jiska for you in Singapore or for Laurence in Portugal. Certainly, that influences the way we live and the way in the places we choose to live. And I think that's a continued and a daily choice that we make as expats.
Nice. Thank you so much. Laurence, how about you?
Yeah, I think Mo, used the word choice, and I think that's the most important word there. And I think choice kind of leads to freedom. And I think when you have the opportunity to have the freedom to be able to choose where you live, that's most suitable for you or your family or certain circumstances, I think that's a great opportunity to have. About probably 25 years ago, I had a speaker come to my school, and he said one line, and that's kind of stuck with me all these years. And the one line was that the world was his home, and each country he goes to was just a different room in the house. And that really stuck with me. And as a student, I was like, yeah, I want that in my life. And, you can hear my accent. I'm Canadian by, I was born in Canada and raised in Canada, but I left when I graduated and went to Australia. I never thought of myself as an expat there, but I was only going to be there for a year, and that turned into 20 years of my life, with my kids there. And then we took another leap and we moved to Portugal, and we've been here for about 3.5 years. And I think the expat, community is about choice, and is about freedom, is about moving to where you really want to go and really want to be, and because of the circumstances in the different parts of your life. And I think that opportunity, if you have it, you should take it, and it allows us to kind of explore. And when I moved to Portugal, I thought I was going to be in Australia for the rest of my life. But when I moved to Portugal, before we moved, I was talking to my wife. I was like, do we want another chapter in our life? And that was the instigator that helped us to kind of create another experience for our kids, so that they can be half Australian and half European. And that was that opportunity to help them be more world citizens. And then that was the opportunity that kind of came up. And I really appreciated that, accepting the acceptance that Portugal has given me to my family and also the expat community that's here.
Fantastic, thank you. You told me earlier that there are some misconceptions about the groups you run and the experts within them. Do you want to address a few of those, Laurence? Starting with you.
Sure. Oftentimes, when I was in America last year, I think a lot of chairs were, one of the great things about Tiger in itself is that the members get to move. They can actually come and visit other groups as a guest. And a lot of there's some hesitation from some of the members or some of the chairs are thinking, oh, because I'm in Portugal, it must be done in Portuguese. And the fact of the matter is not. It's done in everything. All the groups are done in English. And so, in fact, we actually have no Portuguese, which we're probably going to talk about it in a second. But we actually have a mixture of groups from expats from all around the world.
Great. And Mo, how about you?
Yeah, likewise, of course, we do our meetings here in English as well. And we try to reflect as much as possible the diversity of the city. So Dubai is incredibly diverse, and so we try to reflect that in our groups. In my group, we have 8 different nationalities. Of course, we're not always able to fully reflect the diversity just because certain communities are perhaps more amenable to joining peer groups as compared to others. But there's a lot of commonalities amongst the members, regardless of where they came from. Of course, things like tax and structuring are important, but access and learning of new investment opportunities from new geographies that they get from their peers, and belonging to an international community such as Tiger 21 gives them that really very international exposure. The US and the US dollar, of course, is a key portfolio element, no matter where you are or no matter where you come from. And that is perhaps even further magnified in a group like Tiger 21, just because of the increase in improved opportunity that we have to the US through the community. But then members are learning about other markets and other places to invest from their peers. So it gives them that additional exposure and diversity and that additional learning that all the various diversities bring to it.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit further about the groups you're facilitating. You already spoke a bit about the mix of expats and nationals. Do you want to further elaborate on that a little bit more, Mo?
Yes, absolutely. So as mentioned, I have 8 different nationalities. My group is currently 14, and Tiger 21, it's a maximum of 15 members, so we're pretty much at capacity in the group, and so quite a diverse bunch. In terms of perspectives, while many choose Dubai for similar reasons, many come with different perspectives and again different opportunities and different exposures, and so they all bring that to the group, and they sort of check each other as it relates to one's own sort of perceptions and through the various discussions. So I think that diversity for us is absolutely critical, and it's not only nationality. Of course, nationality or background is critical and important, but it's also age, it's also sector, it's also business and a sort of investment profile. And we try to mix the group with as much of that diversity as possible.
Great. Laurence, how's that for you? What's the mix of members in your group between expats and nationals?
So let's start with my Portugal group. My Portugal group, we have about 9 members, and can you hear me okay? Yep.
Yes,
yeah. And, the 9 members itself, you've got across 6 different nationalities in that. And obviously we have some people from America, but there's also a lot of Europeans from UK, from Dutch, from some Netherlands, or, and my global group, which is 10 members, and across a broad cross. There's about, I think, 8 or 9 different nationalities but also if you include those nationalities don't actually live in their home country. So I have a Canadian in Portugal, for example. I have someone from Belarus and Moldova from the US. I have an Australian in the US. I have a German in Dubai. So there's across the board, there's different perspective, not just from their nationality and where they grew up, but also a different perspective of where they currently at. And so you can see the interesting conversations we actually have and the perspective that people have in terms of investments, and also in the future, they're going to have almost multiple layers, even in just one person, because they grew up in a certain way, a different type of background, but they're living in a different space. So it's similar to me, right? I'm Canadian, but have an Australian background with also now a Portuguese or European perspective. Just in one person, you have sort of three different types of background perspectives. So it's not just, say, if there's 10 members, it's not just 10 perspectives. It's actually probably more like 13 to 15 different type of perspective that someone can lend into a perspective of their portfolio, their relationships with their spouses and their partners and their kids, how they should rave, estate planning. All of these things require different perspectives. And this is the power of a group of like-minded people, but they're like-minded in one way, but they're also different-minded in different perspective. And that's the power of having shared knowledge, but also seeing it from a different lens. And I think that's helped you make better decisions. Ultimately, you're going to make the decision on your own, but ultimately, when you have all the pieces together, that your personal board of directors will then help you kind of guide you to make the right decision in the future.
Jiska, maybe
Great.
quickly I could add to that. And our role as
Yes.
chairs, we're not
Yeah.
members. We have a responsibility towards our members, towards Tiger 21, and that is to facilitate and to unpeel the onion, if you will, to bring out these various perspectives and these various backgrounds and these various comfort levels. So of course, different members have a different comfort level of sharing and sort of how they learn. And so it's really on us to bring that out and to ensure that all get the various perspectives from the group that we have, and that keeps sort of these lively conversations and these deep discussions, and in many instances the vulnerability that comes out, and the learning for as a result.
Great, thank you. So yeah, let's talk a little bit further about that. How do these members impact the way you run the group? Yeah, Laurence, you want to start on this?
Yeah, it absolutely changes the dynamics because my Portugal group is an in-person group where my global group is done mostly online because there are people who are usually traveling a lot and from different countries. And so it's relatively differently, even just in those two groups. And because not only is there different perspective and the different types of people that are in there, but there's also like cultural differences, right? The cultural differences in terms of what Mo just talked about. Some cultures are a little bit more reserved, right? Some cultures are a little bit more robust, and there are some cultures are more reserved in the sense of even keeping things a little closer to them because that's how they've been taught. And where other cultures, they're fully okay with being vulnerable. And this is not just about finances. This is about about your emotions, vulnerable about how you're feeling, vulnerability about what's going on in your life that, you have no one to talk to. And we try to, as a chair, we create these groups, not because they're exceptional people around the room, but they're exceptional people who can actually help you, because you now have an opportunity to be able to ask a question or share a thought or emotion or feeling that you almost can't talk about. Sometimes you can't even talk to your own spouse about because maybe it is about your spouse. Maybe it is about something that they don't understand. And you have 10 or 12 other peers who had an understanding, understand you because they're going through exactly the same thing. And our job isn't to necessarily solve problems every single time. It's about opening up a conversation, a discussion that may resolve 6 months later, but it's actually having that discussion and having the vulnerability to be able to have these type of talks, because most people we all have friends. We all have friends that we can kind of talk to, but there are certain things that goes on in each of our lives that we cannot discuss. We can't because it's too vulnerable, or they'll judge us. Our friends will think of us in a certain way, or your friends have known you for 20 years. You already know what they think because they're going to protect you. They're not going to tell you the truth that you want to hear. And a group like this allows that vulnerability also, but allows them to share something that you don't want to hear sometimes, but that's a truth that you need to hear.
Right, Mo, how is that in your group?
Yeah, I mean, it's just not to add to what Laurence just said. I'll give an example actually, where a member from my group in Dubai presented what we call a portfolio defense at Tiger 21, which basically is their life journey, their career journey, of course, their investment outlook, their investment portfolio, their asset allocation, and their goals. What are they trying to achieve? So I had a member present in my group here in Dubai that then presented in Laurence's group in Portugal. One of the beauties of Tiger 21 is it creates the opportunity for members to attend meetings globally, anywhere where we have groups, but also in some instances to present their portfolio defense and get feedback from these various members. So in this instance, I was speaking about we choose where we want to live initially. A lot of people choose Dubai, of course, for many different reasons, but oftentimes there's a continued career or business growth that they choose a place like Dubai for, where we tend to be very focused sort of on continuing the growth of a business, or in the case of our members, their portfolio, achieving higher rates of return. There's a lot of that as a central discussion element. And so when my member presented in our group in Dubai, that was the type of feedback he got about how can you continue to grow your portfolio? How can you sort of de-risk certain things? How can you improve the diversification of your assets, asset allocation and such? When he presented in Portugal, he got a very different perspective. Maybe Laurence can describe it. He was in the room there.
Sure.
As to that, what that was
Yeah,
like.
I thought so. Your member came across and delivered a great presentation and his portfolio, and it really opened up. And especially when you think about that, he opened up a portfolio to 10 people that he didn't even know. And I think that's the confidentiality and security and also the vulnerability that allows that to happen. And then the trust that's there. And when he opened up, and obviously my group, what Mo was saying, when you come to Portugal is not necessarily, it's almost the exact opposite of going to Dubai, right? It's, you come to Southern Europe to really choose a life. I'm like, I'm here for lifestyle and relaxation and to enjoy my life and try to see what else I can explore and experience and create a nice family lifestyle for my kids to grow up in. And so the feedback, not everybody, but majority of the feedback was the exact opposite of what Mo's group would been given. It was mostly about, well, you created this wealth, go sell your company, enjoy it. Die with zero kind of mentality. And which was and I didn't know this until I dropped the member off to his hotel. And afterwards, I spoke to, after dinner, I drove him home and drove back to the hotel and I said, oh, curious, how was that feedback for you? And how did it differ from the previous presentation to your Dubai group? And he said it was completely opposite. And that was what it was. It was just that he was at my group, my own group at Dubai was telling me to push harder, push, where your group was the complete opposite, is go and enjoy your life. And I think that's the perfect example of how different perspective can shape you. Now, obviously, I don't know exactly what he decided, but he's going to have to take all of that information now and then make a decision that's right for him. There is no right and there's no wrong. It is about giving you more decisions and more perspective that allows you to think deeply of what you truly want.
Great. Yeah, just like Mo mentioned already, so one of the benefits of being a Tiger 21 member is the ability to visit up to 10 other meetings all over the world to gain different perspectives. So thank you for that beautiful example. So being an expat comes with upsides and downsides. How do you see them, either from your perspective or from what you've heard talking to Tiger 21 members? Laurence, do you want to elaborate on this?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, like I said, I started off today was about freedom. And I think that's the most important thing. Like, when someone's an ultra high net worth or you have the ability to have freedom, you have a freedom to choose. And we're lucky that we live in this world that actually has freedom. And when you do that, that's a massive upside. You get to choose places that you want to go to, choose where you're respected, choose where you feel like it's going to give you the biggest upside to your life and the experience that you want for the rest of your life. The challenge, of course, is there's, with every upside, there's always going to be downsides, and I think that when I first moved to Portugal, I thought the downside was going to be that, I'm not going to know a single person. I didn't know anybody coming to Portugal. It was a brand new place. My wife and kids have never even been here before. And we just took the leap and moved. What I was pleasantly surprised, which is not the downside. The upside was pleasantly surprised was how big and how inviting the expat community is. Because one of the things that, when you move to a country, the hardest part is actually making new friends or new connections or just people who get to know you. And I think that challenge was just having an expat community and just people who know, when you see someone who's not Portuguese, in my case, you just know, like, you and I did exactly the same thing. And we haven't even said a word, right? Because you made the leap, I made the leap, and we already have an instant connection. I think that that connection, that instant feeling is a great inviting experience. And to be honest, I probably made more friends and connections here within 6 months in Portugal than I did in, 8 years when I was in Sydney. Not that one's bad or the other, it's just because you kind of just integrate it differently because of the different language barriers and certain and different elements and different cultures. So, but the downside of, being an expat sometimes is finding that community. And I think you have opportunities of, this is where Tiger kind of brings in, when you're moving in, especially as a high net worth, you don't know who to trust. You don't know who to talk to. You don't know who you can actually speak openly about certain things. And where if you come to, say Portugal, and you reach out to me and I can connect you to other people who are in the similar financial situation as you now can talk through certain things that are a lot easier to come by versus just any sort of random expat. I think that's the benefit and the beauty of sort of coming to a place where there's people who are like you, who can understand you, who are already vetted and actually have the same perspective around money and finances than you do, just similar to what you are about.
Great. And Mo, how's that in Dubai?
Laurence said it so well. Exactly the same. I mean, I have a couple of members that literally joined our group on the first few months of arriving in Dubai. And you could imagine that immediately put them in a tribe that is trusting and gave them access, of course, gave them a community, but is there from meeting number one to support them on anything that they need, whether it's social and community building or regulation or investing or buying a real estate or where to live or where to put the children in school. All of that is a very trusted feedback you get on day one. I think the other thing of the beauty of it is, especially for the ultra high net worth, is the matter of taboo of wealth in many communities that we may come from, wealth and income and spending, especially when it's large numbers. And so when joining a group like Tiger 21, it really breaks that taboo, because it's meant to have these types of discussions, and it's meant to be where you are vulnerable and put down your guards and are able to discuss any of these items with a group that's sharing the same both privileges but also challenges of what comes with wealth stewardship and wealth responsibility. And so those taboos are broken on day one, and you're very comfortable in the conversations that you have. I think especially for an expat coming into a new community, it really helps in that integration.
Great. So actually, expats have a few different peer groups to choose from. What makes Tiger 21 different, Mo?
So I belong to a few peer groups, and they're all amazing. I mean, for anyone that's not in a peer group, get into one, whatever one it is. They're just incredible for for development, personal development, professional development, career development. Tiger 21 is a lot of what Laurence said. It enables you to have conversations that you couldn't otherwise have with anyone else. That's the reality of money and wealth. We're not able to have these conversations as openly anywhere else. That's just the reality of it, no matter where or what background or community we come from. And so Tiger 21 gives our members the place to do that once a month, to meet and to discuss these topics that are front of mind for them and they're unable to have anywhere else. It also keeps them on track as it relates to their sort of wealth and wealth stewardship and whatever strategy they may have defined, where every month they come back and check in and how are things going? Are we on track? And the group sort of pushes you and updates you and reminds you when they see you drifting. And that's a great value to have for any ultra high net worth, that again, wealth stewardship is a core element in their lives. And very few other peer communities give that ecosystem or platform or community where you could have these types of conversations as consistently and openly as you do with Tiger 21. But of course, Tiger 21 isn't for everything, meaning we're very much focused on wealth stewardship. Other communities maybe focus on other matters of importance for other people. So all of these peer communities, as I had started saying, have their advantages.
Great. Laurence,
Yeah,
any?
I mean, it's hard to add to what Mo has said. There's a few things that I think are like most people are in multiple peer groups, so some people are not in any. And the power of a peer group is not only that it's not just friendship, but it is perspective, and most important is that it allows you to have transparency. And I think that's what makes Tiger different, is that the full transparency that we actually our members actually have. They have trust, number one, in the selection process that Tiger has to, choose their members in the group, because we just don't accept everybody, right? And it's not just because you have X amount that you get to be accepted. There's a lot of other things that we gotta have to consider. And two is that the transparency of being vulnerable to, your portfolio. And if everybody's expected to do that, then you also have to have that transparency. And there's open trust. And you can imagine in a group of 12 people, I call them the personal board of directors, is because they are really there to help you with everything. It's not just about wealth. It's about personal conversations, about personal relationships, about what you do with your kids. How much money do you leave your kids with, without spoiling them? All of these things are topics of discussions on a monthly basis. And these are important discussions that you can't necessarily talk to anybody, as I mentioned before. And the reason why that is, I feel, is because, most people and most members come to us is that one of the most common things, it's not everyone, most common, things that I hear from members when they first join is that I've always looked for something like this, because they're looking for someone they can actually have a deep conversation with, but they can also be okay with sharing their wealth and their number. And the reason why that's important is because there's no judgment. It's just mostly that oftentimes we hear this like it's a first world problem. And we take that, we hear it all the time, but it is a first world problem, but doesn't mean it doesn't impact you emotionally. It doesn't mean that you don't actually have a problem that you need to kind of get solved. It doesn't mean that it doesn't affect you internally. And how do you navigate through that? Just because you have money doesn't mean it solves all problems. It helps, but it doesn't solve all problems. It doesn't help that you actually, might be emotionally attached to this. And what the peer group does, it allows you to dissect that, carefully, because oftentimes when we're emotionally, in a problem, we are tunnel focus. We are tunnel focused so that we only see that perspective, and you only have an echo chamber of that. What Tiger allows that's different is that you have now perspective from different cultures, different background, different age, different experiences that can open up that vision wider so that you can actually see clearly, the forest from the trees, and allows you to see the perspective that you weren't able to because you only felt that you had to do this alone. And I think that Tiger allows is as it opens up and it reminds you that you're not alone. There's a lot of people who are experiencing the same thing as you, who are similar situation, and it's because you were able to open up. Now you actually have access to the people who go, oh, you know what? I have that issue. I feel the same way too about my kids. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. And I think that's the difference between Tiger and other peer groups.
Great. Well, that's all very insightful. So now let's take a couple of questions from participants. Let me just see. There's a question here on the portfolio defense. Can you tell us more about the portfolio defense? Is that something every member does? Mo, do you want to get started on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the answer is yes, every member does it. It's a core part of our meeting and what we do at Tiger 21. So in every meeting, monthly meeting, we have one portfolio defense. It's a 2-hour segment where the member presents their life, career, business, wealth journey, and all the good and not so good, all the learnings that they may have experienced. And then, of course, there's a qualitative part and a quantitative part. The quantitative part delves into their portfolio, their asset allocation, their income and expenses. And so that typically takes about 40 minutes or an hour. And then the remaining hour or so is for 3-4 questions that the member has for their group. Again, as Laurence was saying earlier, to their board of directors. So they come with really pressing questions. It doesn't have to be about asset allocation and portfolio. It could be, of course, oftentimes it is, but it could be about selling their business. It could be about next generation and how to integrate them into whether it's the business or the wealth and the wealth management of it. Whatever it is that's pressing for them. And the members are there to serve the presenter. Those 2 hours are entirely focused on the presenter. And they're there to serve and give completely, of course, no conflict of interest and open feedback. The presentation, though, is only one element of it. Leading up to the presentation, there's a long preparation process, and that typically allows our members, and we as chairs work very closely with them to help them in that preparation. It allows them to delve into things which maybe they haven't really thought about in a while, whether it's about their journey and how they got here, or their current asset allocation, or their current income and expenses and how they're allocating that. Or about what they want to achieve or what's pressing in their lives. There's a lot of self-reflection that happens in that preparation process. And of course, then there's what to do about it. So after the meeting, the feedback that you receive from the other members, the example we gave earlier about the member that presented in Dubai and in Portugal, you get very different perspectives, sometimes completely opposite perspectives. It's for the member to go back to dissect all of that and decide what they want to do about it, how they're going to take that feedback and what they're going to execute and operate against. We then have check-ins after a few months. How's it going? How's it been? What have you changed? What have you acted on? And so that also helps in the follow-through after the session, because we don't want it to end on the day of the presentation. We certainly want it to continue to be implemented in their life journey forward.
Right. Laurence, is there anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think oftentimes you get this question a lot, and I think the next logical question with people is like, do people really share their whole portfolio with the true numbers and the confidentiality? And the answer is absolutely yes. And the reason why that is because it's a secure place, it's confidentiality. So let's be very clear on a couple of things. The confidentiality is that everybody in the room knows, and it's said at every single meeting. It's also, as a member, is really stressed upon that whatever we talk about in the room stays in the room. I don't even disclose who my members are, and that's really important. Number two is that the numbers are shown in the room. It's not distributed. We don't share it. We don't email it out. It is actually only shared in the room itself, and it's collected at the end and it's shredded. So oftentimes I think it's important for people to recognize is that, it is important to share because the number does matter, because it matters not to, like, it's not a boast thing. It's not an ego thing. It's mostly just affects the answers to the questions you actually have as a member presenting, because it matters a lot. Like, for example, last say one of my previous PDs was, trying to decide on how much money do I give to my kids and what age do I give it to them. That's not going to ruin them. That still provides the drive for them to kind of go through university and doing all those things. But that number may be changed if I don't know what the overall number is, right? And so that the perspective does matter, and that's why these numbers are really important. And when you're at a certain level, the number doesn't matter anymore. From a judgment perspective, it's really more for context. It matters from the answers and the perspective that you actually will get. So confidentiality is super important for us as chairs and also as members, and everybody respects it. And it's one of the things that we handle. I believe Tiger does it really, really well.
Great. Laurence, let's stay with you. Can you talk a little more about the difference between your global group, and the in-person group, please?
Sure. So the in-person groups, So the in-person groups we have is mostly focused on people who actually live in a location. So for example, my Portugal group are members who live here, majority. I do have a person from Spain who flies in every single month. So most people kind of live in Portugal. Now, my global group is designed for people who don't have a group, say in Germany. We don't have a group in Germany yet currently. So it's really designed for people who are either one, who want to be part of Tiger, who's not in a location that has an in-person group, or two, they're traveling so much that it's almost impossible to be in an in-person group because they're not there enough, or at the times that we actually have, because we have a monthly meeting, 11 meetings a year. So you want to be able to, show up for your members, your fellow members to be there. So in person, we meet in person, and we'll whereas the virtual group, we meet online on Zoom. But in the virtual group, we do meet twice a year. We have an in-person retreat that we have, and we pick a location, and we spend 2.5 days, or at least my group, we spent 2.5 days together to actually come together, have discussions, experience life together. So they do actually have a lot of time to actually get to spend, not just virtually, but also in person as well.
Great. Let's see, we'll pick another group from another participant. Mo, can you talk a little bit more specifically about the kinds of things that get discussed in groups? What kind of topics come up?
So we have a segment called Issues and Opportunities, and really anything could come up. It really does not have to be only about sort of the topic of wealth stewardship. Within the topic of wealth stewardship, there's investments, asset allocation, next generation, estate planning, legacy, contribution, all of that. But we also discuss about elderly parents. We discuss about health. It's, of course, a big topic, and wellness. We discuss about travel. I mean, it could be lifestyle. It could be about really anything of interest to the members. And the topics are provided by the members and selected by the members. What I mean by that is, in every meeting, the group comes with certain things on their mind, and we sift through those to decide what's the immediate and most important priority for the individual or the group, and we choose those and dive in. Really, it's a wide set of topics. We used to bring speakers, in my experience, at least in my group, initially quite a bit. Where we are today is we don't much, because what the members have sort of given me as feedback is they tend to learn a lot more from each other, and they want to use that time really to brainstorm and discuss things together. While of course speakers on specific matters and expertise are very relevant, they often prefer to share the experience together, and so it's a pretty wide set of topics that could come up. Of course, another one is investment, so dissecting an investment, and so members may come to the group with a particular opportunity they're looking at, and they collectively dissect it and give feedback to one another on that. So these are the typical topics.
Interesting, Mo. Thank you very much. Well, you earlier mentioned group visits, but I want to ask Laurence now, are there other opportunities to interact with members outside your group?
Yeah, I think one of the distinguishing things about Tiger 21 is that you actually get to visit another group. Most peer groups or organizations don't allow that. And I think you can imagine if you take about one person, like say myself, go to another group, say in New York, all of a sudden, like in just one meeting, you have access to another 12 connections. You go to one in Miami, it's another 12, that's 24 people. You go to Dubai, that's another 12 or 15 people. There's 36 connections. That's from 3 meetings in the world. But there's other opportunities as well. So for example, there's a general, we have, actually, let's start with the simpler one, right? On the app, you are now connected to all the members of Tiger 21, right? Over 1,800 members across the world that you have access to. So if you're planning to travel to Germany, you might look up and go, who's in Germany? And then maybe I can actually get connection. Because if a Tiger member knows you're a Tiger member, connecting them, or asking the chair to connect them, or knowing that it is another Tiger member, all of a sudden there's this instant, like I mentioned about the expat thing, when I noticed that you're not Portuguese and I'm not Portuguese, there's that instant connection that, hey, we most likely can get along right away. And I think that connection to itself is a huge, not only just from a connection point of view, which is a human to human, but also from an investment point of view, or from, sometimes it's about connecting that maybe something, I've heard this story many times, which is, someone in your family is going through something challenging medically, for example, and you don't know who the experts are. And if you go into the chat of our app, you can actually ask the questions to all the members. And someone out of all the people around the world is going to go, hey, I experienced the same thing, or I know this particular specialist who's actually in this location that would be helpful. Let me connect you to. And that's the power of the network itself. So there's that connection. And then also we have enough events that are going on. Once a year we have the general global exchange, and there's over 1,000 members are coming together to really kind of hang out with each other, talk to each other, and really meet each other. But there's also smaller groups. There's also the Discover events. I know there was one in Discover Lisbon, or there might be a Discover Dubai, which means there's a smaller group of people, and they actually get to go meet 50 people and spend 2.5 days together. In addition to that, you also have different interest groups within Tiger. You have the special interest group. So there might be people who are only interested in real estate, and they have a subgroup for that. There's people who are into aviation. There are even people who are health and wellness, for example, or the 49 years and under group. There's a singles group. That's when the conversation comes up. What talked about previous question, which is like Mo, was just about, well stewardship. There's also a discussion like, hey, I'm single, I'm young, I don't know how to date properly. How do I find people who are like-minded? So there's all these type of discussions, all these sub-interest groups as well. Some are lifestyle, some are investment. There are so much going on in Tiger that you can get involved and participate in that will allow you to go with your interest and go with what you feel that's most interesting to you. And there's enough people around the world that can help you get connected to the people that are similar to you.
Great, Laurence. Then Mo, so how do you choose the members? Question from participant. How do you choose the members in your groups, and what do you look for?
So Tiger 21 has very clear criteria, and of course that one of the criteria relates to investable assets or wealth, but equally importantly, and even more importantly, is their capacity, their capability to sort of attend and contribute, and the diversity for us is very important in terms of their experiences, their background, the sort of the value add, if you will, to the rest of the group. There's also a set of conditions that we need to verify that the member, because that comes very important for confidentiality and non-solicitation. So there are character reference checks and background checks that we do to ensure that whoever's in the room has been thoroughly vetted. And that's also true, by the way, not just for the members, but also for the chairs in terms of background and character and such. For example, myself, I went through 9 interviews to finally get selected to join Tiger 21 as a chair. And so that diligence that Tiger applies to members is also applied to chairs, is applied to anyone that's in the room. So it's a fairly comprehensive process where the prospect gets to meet a few different individuals, of course, including the chair of the group that they will join, and then go through a specific qualification process related to their wealth, their references, background, and all of that.
Thank you very much for that, Mo. With that, there's more questions from participants, but we're going to stop here for a moment, and I'm going to hand it over back to Mark.
Thank you, Jiska, and thank you, Mo and Laurence, and for everybody today for joining us. It's just great. Today's discussion just reminded me of how small our world really is, and how we're all brought together here. And so thank you so much for moderating, Jiska, and for Laurence and Mo for sharing your perspectives. Everyone who registered today will receive a copy of the recording. And be sent to your email address and used to register for this webinar. As I mentioned at the start, this webinar is part of a series of conversations powered by Tiger 21. You can get some real insights. And last quarter, for example, we hosted a call on optimizing human performance. We do these every other month or so, and so be looking out for the next one coming up in March. If you'd like to learn more about Tiger 21 and becoming a member, please feel free to visit tiger21.com, and you can learn a lot of information there. Thanks, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Have a wonderful rest of your day.